Hello, good evening to all of our friends in the Philippines and hopefully beyond as well. How are you doing tonight? I hope you are having great air quality in your home and in the city that you are living in. That is my wish for you because that's our topic tonight, air quality inside of our homes. That will be the focus. We will maybe touch a little bit on outside as well, because if your outside air quality is bad, then you got a problem inside as well, because usually we want to bring in fresh air to make our homes have a very good air quality. But if our so-called fresh air from outside ain't as fresh as it should be, then we've got a real problem, a real issue. So that's the topic tonight. Later on, I will bring in a guest that is a real expert in it and has turned it into a business. This, I think, is what I believe in. I think last time when we had our inaugural show, I mentioned to you that when I was a youngster, my late father asked me, "Hey, boy, what do you want to do for a job?" And I told him, "Dad, my job is to save the planet." And then his answer was, "Son, get a proper job. You can't make money from hugging trees." And I basically told him that is my mission in life. I really got to do this. And I found a way to make a living from healing the planet. Same with Dustin. He found a way to turn indoor air quality and helping people to get healthier into a business. I think that is very important because we need to move away from just sustaining environmental initiatives through charitable donations, because those are often not long lasting. The money sooner or later will run out. It's great to have CSR initiatives and give to the needy, but we need to heal the planet and help people by actually delivering sustainability that is continuous, that is ongoing. So this is very, very important as a principle of giving back to the world, providing healing to the planet. We need to turn it into a sustainable business that self-sustains itself. So if you want to help people with good indoor air quality, you need to come up with a way of how you can make it pay for itself. And that's exactly what Dustin has done. He's actually a Filipino. He's the co-founder of a company called uHoo. And let me first share with you how I actually started doing this. When my baby daughter was born, I was very conscious that living here in the Philippines with sometimes not so good outdoor air quality and in a home where sometimes you buy things, there's new furniture coming in, how can you actually make sure that you don't have a polluted indoor environment? So this is really important from the point of view of making sure that you can keep your home healthy for the people that are living in there. So in my case, when my baby daughter was born, I got myself this device, and it ended up to be the device that Dustin actually came up with. So we will first show you a video, but I didn't even mention my name. This is GreenMan Matthias Gelber, and great to be able to have this show with you tonight, the GreenMan Show. And we will show a short video, and then we'll bring Dustin on.
Hey guys, my name is GreenMan. I'm originally from a small village in Germany. I was voted greenest person on the planet in 2008, and my passion is to inspire people to live a green lifestyle. I myself try to live as green as possible. Electricity bill less than $10. I just created my carbon footprint, zero carbon footprint off-grid home. Green living, that's my business. In the morning, we look at our personal lives. In the afternoon, we look at what can we do in the office. What can we do as a member of an organization or as a manager or owner to take our organization, our business to the next level? Again, to shift from burden to planet to healing the planet through product innovation, energy efficiency, reduction of consumption, adding more to the bottom line, and coming up with innovations that help the planet. That's what green living and working is all about, to look at where can I be the change and be the difference.
Hey, Dustin, good evening. How are you doing? Can you hear me? He's very quiet. He's got his microphone on mute, so that gives me the impression that he can't hear me at the moment. But let me do a shout out to our friends out there. I can see Alberto, Neptune, and Shamik from the Pinoy Scout TV. They are on our show today. That's great. Kathy as well. Thanks, Kathy. Great to see you. Joshua is here. Lovely to hear from you and see you on the screen. So we already have some good audience here. Some people who have returned from last time. Oh yeah, my darling is there as well. You can see her as Precious Mary Ann. Wow, great to see some familiar people that are supporting me. Obviously, Angelica, thank you, from Pinoy Scout TV. Wow, they are great, the Pinoy Scout TV guys. Excellent. And Justin Escuero as well. Escuro is there. Great. So Dustin, you can hear me? How are you doing tonight? Obviously, it seems we have some technical problem there with my good friend Dustin Onghangseng, the Filipino guy who actually invented...
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Dustin. How are you tonight, Dustin?
All right. Yeah, I'm a bit under the weather today, so yeah, I'm still okay. But a bit under the water.
I thought the typhoon had already left us.
Under the weather, yeah.
Under the weather, no problem. Walang problema. We can survive. Yeah, Dustin is a Filipino, and he has co-founded this company that actually helps people to improve their indoor air quality. And I find it fascinating, Dustin, tell us a story how you came up with this idea of starting a business to help people to improve their indoor air quality. And what is it that you guys actually provide, sell, and have brought out there to the marketplace?
In terms of how we started the company, I met my co-founder in Hong Kong when we were doing our MBA over there. And he has asthma, I have allergic rhinitis, and both of us often had our allergies in school. So whenever we were inside a school building, we don't feel good. A lot of the students would feel the same way. But when we leave the school building, it feels a lot better. So this is where the whole idea of why can't the school manage the air quality and the indoor environment properly? And it was simply because if you don't have the data, you won't be able to really manage something. So that's where my co-founder and I, Brian and I, both of us eventually dropped our classes and started the company. And it took us 3 years of R&D, and eventually we launched our solution in late 2017. And we are the most comprehensive monitor in the market. We measure 9 air quality parameters to help you understand the quality of air that you breathe. We provide you the data, we provide you with insights, with trends, and we can also help automate your building or help automate your home through the data and the software that we've built. And most recently, because of the coronavirus pandemic, we also launched the uHoo Virus Index. So it's patented, and we're the only ones in the market who can give you a real-time risk assessment of the coronavirus, whether it can survive or become transmitted through the air in your environment.
That's great. Actually, there are 2 things here I would like to pick out. I think that everybody can learn from. One issue is you turned a problem into an opportunity. The problem was you were facing serious health issues inside of the buildings that you were studying in, but nobody was taking you serious because there was no hard data showing factual information that there was polluting pollutants in the air that had a health impact. So actually, you turned this problem into a business opportunity by coming up with a solution that measures the pollution indoor, and which is the starting point for actually improving and changing things. So this is always in business, I think, a very good recipe. If there is a problem, come up with a solution. If you can help solve people's problems, usually somebody is willing to pay money for that. And then, here we have a Filipino, like many of those that are listening, who has started a business that is the most comprehensive air quality monitor in the marketplace. This is a booming industry now because of COVID. People have realized we need to monitor our indoor air quality because there is a relationship between air quality and virus risk. And we will come to that in a minute. This is as well the scientific background information that was used to develop this virus index that Dustin just indicated. But here is a Filipino that could pull off starting a business that is the most comprehensive indoor air quality monitoring device in the marketplace. And what I find very interesting, maybe a little bit sad as well, but interesting, most of their customers are in North America and in Europe. I mean, it would be nice if Dustin, as a Filipino co-founder, would have loads of customers in the Philippines. But the reality is, right, in the Philippines, it hasn't yet taken off as much as it has in Europe and in North America. How is that? Even though you are a Filipino?
I guess it's more the appreciation towards a healthy lifestyle and healthy living, and also a focus on sustainability. Because when we look at sustainability trends, a lot of them are driven by Europe, by China, and a few in Asia. So it's really more on a mindset thing. But the nice thing with what's going on in ASEAN right now, or Southeast Asia, is that people are starting to look into the sustainability trend more and more. But as we can see, that it still hasn't really kicked off yet. Like, it's still at its infancy. Whereas if you look at other countries, it's already a big focus for it.
So you think that will change over time, that we will see more people, particularly in the Philippines as well, embarking on wanting to understand their indoor air quality in order to really help their health situation? I mean, one of the things that I have realized, and it shocked me, that we have in the Philippines lower life expectancy compared to the rest of ASEAN. So how come that we here in the Philippines, and I include myself because I have lived now in San Pablo City for a while, and I just had my working visa for the next 2 years approved as well. So I'll definitely be here for more time to stay. So what do you think, Dustin, is going to be the reason that Filipinos are less healthy, and how can we change that?
I guess it's a combination of what we are exposed to. Of course, pollution outdoors is really bad. Indoor air is up to 5 times worse. So if you couldn't manage it properly, you're basically breathing in stale air, even when you're at home or in the workplace, which we have seen in a few of our clients here in the Philippines. Even if you're working in an office in BGC or Makati, the air quality inside the office is actually making you sick based on the data. And another factor would most likely be diet. I mean, here in the Philippines, we all love to eat fast food. So it's all about how we move into more healthier diets, more organic type of food. Then that should really help as well in terms of our health.
I think that's a good point. We need to look at both. We need to look at healthier air. We need to look at healthier diet. And we have a great comment from Ted Ocampo, who says indoor quality in the city is really bad. I mean, impacted by the bad outdoor air quality that we've got here. But didn't we learn during the early days of the lockdown that it can actually be different? And I'm sure you've seen that as well in the Philippines for some of those companies or individuals that have their uHoo switched on. was there a significant improvement in the data during the lockdown?
Yes, there was actually a very big improvement during the lockdown. And one of the reasons is the office is not overoccupied. Because one of the things that happens in offices in the Philippines is that they become overoccupied when it's, for example, if it's meant for 50 people, sometimes it's being packed up to 100 or 150 people. So the very fact that you overoccupy an office would create stale air. And if you don't really manage it properly or ventilate it properly, it just gets worse. That's the reason why when people are inside the office, the main reason for that is simply because have enough of the buildings are not equipped, because some of the buildings are actually not built to manage that. So we also have to look at how do we build buildings that balance both not just energy efficiency, but also health and well-being. Because if you're able to achieve this, you go beyond just energy efficiency, you go beyond just incurring energy costs. You can actually save on energy as well. And healthier people means it also enhances their productivity, which contributes to your top line and your bottom line in the company.
Yeah, Ted as well mentioned the comment here. He started using air purifier and it improved his sleep. So this is an indicator with him having better sleep. I'm sure he's more productive. He feels healthier. He can have more output in the day. And if we link that back to the businesses, the justification for businesses to invest in air purifiers and air quality monitoring devices to manage the air quality, really there is a huge upside on productivity and less sick leave. There are statistics on that as well. But we have already here from Alberto Reyes a question coming in. Does having an air conditioner improve air quality? What's your response on that, Dustin?
It really depends on how you use the air conditioner. If it gets really warm, so you need the air conditioner to cool down the air, that enhances the comfort. But if it gets really, really cold, it would also dry up the air. So depending on how cold it gets, when the air is really dry, you're going to get a sore throat. You're also going to get like dryness in your throat. So it's also balancing that. And at night, when you sleep with an air conditioner, you really built and it's why when you realize that your CO2 levels are really high and you might feel lethargic at certain days, or you might wake up with a headache. And it's simply because you're not breathing in enough oxygen, or there's not enough oxygen in your room during the night. So it's also something that you need to balance. Yeah. So an air conditioner has its benefits in terms of comfort, but it also has its downsides. It's all about once you understand the data, then you can manage it properly.
Yeah. We will come back to the CO2 in a minute, because CO2 is really crucial in understanding what's going on in our buildings, and measuring it will help with it. But Joshua just asked, what do you think about air diffusers, Dustin?
Air diffusers are the ones that emit some form of smell, right? Like a fragrance. Is that what you're referring to? If it is, I'm totally against that.
I think
Get
one of
into
the problems,
a building that may be a trigger for allergies. So
yeah. Some of the air diffusers could be VOC related, volatile organic compounds, as the base carrier, and that can have a negative health impact. If people use air diffusers, and I think we have that in hotels and malls, it should definitely be VOC free. That's very, very important. But sometimes, we have that as well. You have that device with a water inside and with a little bit of a light. It absorbs the air and I think cleans the air a little bit. I think those ones are positive. The question here that comes in from Justin Escuro is there a bad effect in the air if we use mosquito repellent or insect repellents? What's your view on that?
To push more, but it's pretty, if you ask, But of course, if you are allergic type of VOC, then that's not good for you, because there are hundreds of thousands of types of VOCs in the air, and all of them have their own use. Some are harmful, some are harmless. And some of them may trigger allergies to specific people, and some of them has no effect to other people. So it's also understanding what you're particularly sensitive to, and that should help in terms of what products you can use, how much you use them, and all that.
I think the most important criteria should be that we, if we buy stuff like that, I'm usually against it, but my wife sometimes buys it. I think she's listening at the moment because she says, oh, we need it because the natural stuff that I wanted to use to get rid of the ants doesn't seem to be working. We have very persistent ants here in the Philippines. So I asked my wife, okay, if you get it, make sure it's water-based, it's solvent-free. That is my criteria, because I don't want the solvents to be here in the home. And if you spray it, make sure that the kids are not close to it so they don't get exposed to it. We have a good question here from Alberto Reyes. What sustainable steps can we do to improve air quality naturally? Very, very good question. The first thing that comes to mind would be open the window. But then if your air quality outside is bad, then you're bringing in potentially more problems than you're solving. What is your comment on that, Dustin?
So we always need to start with what the problem is, because air quality has a lot of different factors. And the natural way to solve it would be opening the window. It would be through plants. So if we look at plants, different types of plants contribute to improvement and deterioration of air quality differently, because some plants would emit CO2. So you don't want CO2, you have to use different types of plants that absorb, let's say, dust particles, but emit less CO2. And if your environment is really humid, you can also choose plants to reduce humidity. Or if it's too dry, there are also plants that can improve humidity or increase it. So it really varies as well. So you also need to understand what your issues are first before you can actually take the proper action. But there are a lot of different ways to do it. There's a whole field of biophilia.
You can see the plants behind me. A shout out again to my wife, who I think is on the call here, listening to us. She is very good with plants. So she has a couple of plants in my office here, including snake plant. That was the latest one she just gave me. I'll show you guys here. Maybe I should bring her in a future show. She basically put it here in my wine glass. My wine glass had a little chip. So she said, honey, let's not use the wine glass anymore. I will turn it into something else. And it's beautiful because you can see the roots of the snake plant going down here. And the snake plant is quite famous for being good for indoor air quality, absorbing some pollutants and stuff like that. You can actually do some research on the internet on that and find what kind of benefits different plants have. Kent is asking, can humidifiers help? Correct me if I'm wrong, Dustin, but I think we have quite high humidity here. So we don't really need much humidifiers. You might need that in Europe, where you have a very cold climate. Here, we often have too much humidity, right? We sometimes have a choppy connection with Dustin.
Contact, the humidifier would be more useful. Yeah.
Yeah, the humidifier. Yeah. I misread it, actually. The humidifier, yes.
The
humidifier. Yeah. Dehumidifier. Dehumidifier for here, humidifier for Europe, right? Yes.
Yeah,
actually,
right.
Tell us about the uHoo virus index. I'm fascinated with that tool. I have it here on my handphone, actually. Let me show you my uHoo device here. I have it already since 3 years. I bought it 3 years ago. It's still working. I've used it all over the world. It's mobile. You just need to connect it to a Wi-Fi. That's all. And here on my phone, I have the data in here on the uHoo app. And it tells me a virus index score based on scientific rationale. that was derived from studies that analyzed the virus, the SARS virus in Hong Kong that we had there in 2002, I think, and then other studies on viruses, their survival in terms of humidity, temperature. So you guys analyzed all of those studies and then came up with a virus index that defines optimum parameters where the virus gets quickly deactivated. What are these optimum parameters that we should target, Dustin?
Yep. So in terms of the virus index, it's a calculation, it's a combination of all the different parameters that we measure, and we focus on 5. So we calculated the index based on these 5 parameters. These include temperature, humidity, carbon dioxide, PM dioxide. So all of these 5 parameters affect the survival of the virus and whether they can be transmitted through the air and how susceptible you become when you are exposed to these. So if we look at the scientific facts, survival rate of the virus is primarily affected by humidity and by temperature. So when we look at the science, there's a specific range of temperature readings and humidity readings that would reduce the survival rate of the coronavirus specifically. And if you stay within that, if you're not within that range, the normal time frame where they can survive would be 14 days. Let's say if you're at a certain temperature range, at a certain humidity range, it's normally at 14 days. But if you achieve, let's say, 20 degrees Celsius or 21 degrees Celsius and 50% humidity, if you're able to stay there, the survival rate of the coronavirus can be reduced to just that you make your environment and let the virus to survive. And when we look at the transmission of the virus and your susceptibility to catching it, it's also looking at PM 2.5, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen dioxide, simply because viruses can float in the air, and the aerosols would be a good estimate on how well the virus would be able to move through your space. And if you have sufficient ventilation, it means that you can flush it out instead of it just staying inside your home or inside your office. So if you can have proper ventilation and you can reduce these aerosols in the air, your chances of getting infected by it goes down as well. So it's purely a risk assessment. And because technology today cannot monitor the virus in real time, it's not possible yet. So what we do is, since we understand the environment that makes it conducive for the virus to survive and be transmitted,
yeah, we have a little bit of a choppy connection with you, Dustin. But one thing that got chopped off was when you were talking, the virus can survive 2 weeks at a certain kind of humidity and temperature. But then you were defining an optimum level, which is 50% humidity and 20 Celsius to 22 temperature. How quickly does it get deactivated in those optimized conditions? Can you repeat that? Because we didn't get it because you got chopped off at that point in time.
Okay, yeah, so it's going to take roughly 36 hours instead of 14 days.
Wow, that's a huge difference. Yeah. And this is actually as well in line with some of the things that we have observed. Like some of the worst outbreaks were in northern Italy, more in the mountainous ski area regions where it's cold, lower humidity. In Germany, the biggest outbreak in a factory was in an abattoir where the temperatures were very, very low. And the infections seem to have been coming from the airborne recirculation of the air inside of the abattoir from one section to the others. And virus particles basically spread all over the factory because there was no fresh air coming in, and the air was just, rotated from one area to the other at low temperatures. So this was the perfect breeding ground for the virus transmission to move from person to person. And in that factory alone, there were 1,500 employees that got infected. So that is huge. And just to come back to the carbon dioxide level, the carbon dioxide level gives us an indication of how much fresh air is coming in. Because especially if we are in rooms with a lot of humans, We breathe in the oxygen, we breathe out the carbon dioxide, the opposite of photosynthesis. Remember what we learned in school? Nature, the trees, they take the carbon dioxide in, breathe the oxygen out, and the carbon becomes part of the tree trunk. The carbon gets locked in there. So we humans do the opposite of trees and plants. We turn the oxygen into carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide goes up in our indoor environment, especially if we have a lot of people in there. The only way we can address that is get fresh air coming in. Like when I was a consultant at the Asian Development Bank a couple of years ago, I realized they had fresh air coming into their main meeting rooms because they have CO2 sensors already. Even before these sophisticated monitoring tools like uHoo were coming out, they had already installed CO2 sensors in there. And when it goes over, let's say 800 parts per million or 1,000 parts per million, the air handling unit kicks in and brings in fresh air. That's how it should be, right, Dustin?
Yep, that's correct. Exactly how it should be.
Yeah. Now we have a question here from Joshua, and guys, keep bringing in those questions. They are very useful. They are relevant to you, and I'm sure to other listeners as well. Does air quality affect allergies? I mean, you're speaking here from your own experience, right, with rhinitis. So what is the linkage there?
Yeah, air quality is one of the main triggers for allergies. So you need, once you understand what your triggers are, then you would be able to understand what affects it, because air drop in temperature, or a sudden increase in dust particles, or maybe exposure to VOCs, or insufficient fresh air, or you're breathing in stale air because there's too much carbon dioxide, or maybe it can come from nitrogen dioxide, which is like car fumes or factories. So once you understand what affects your allergies, then you can focus on which type of air quality factor to address immediately. And it's a good way for you to be able to prevent these allergies.
Yeah, so important is understanding what is your trigger and then measuring it in the places that you are living or working, and then taking the appropriate action to reduce exactly that problem so that your allergies don't get triggered. That's the recipe here, I think, that Dustin is recommending. And one thing that I would recommend you guys as well to do is encourage your place of work to look at this. Whether it's a listed company who should do it anyway, because it's part of sustainability and ESG. ESG stands for environment, social governance. It's now a requirement for listed companies to actually report on those issues. The SEC has issued a guideline on sustainability reporting, which is applicable to all listed companies. They should report, otherwise they have to explain why they are not reporting. So it's not yet 100% mandatory, but you have to give an explanation if you don't do it, why you are not doing it. And one of the aspects under the social framework of sustainability and ESG is health, safety, and wellness. How are you looking after your employees? Because it's directly linked to business success. It's linked to absenteeism in terms of sick leave. It's linked to productivity. And one statistic that I heard in another call that I was in a couple of days ago, there was a guy from Australia saying, since they've taken the preventative measures in Australia as part of COVID prevention, they have reduced flu occurrences by 1 to 5,000. So, apparently the flu itself, the occurrence of the flu has dropped so much because we have basically learned how to avoid the risk of airborne transmission, because we needed it for COVID, for our survival, and it has resulted in massive reduction of the flu. So suddenly, have you seen many people recently that had the flu? No, because we've been a lot more cautious on preventing all of this. So it's very, very interesting. And that has huge benefits for companies in terms of less people off sick, less people, out of action, and more productivity at the workplace. Okay, at the moment we have that impact of COVID, so we are not living really in normal conditions. But we have a question from Justin coming in. What are biological pollutants? How do they affect indoor air quality? How about those biological pollutants, Dustin?
Those are two different fields. So biological pollutants are generally those viruses and bacteria, and they're not considered part of the field of air quality, because air quality is more on the likes of actual air pollutants that come from chemicals, dust particles, different types of gases. So those are two different fields. Yeah, but how the virus would survive is also affected by the environment that it is in. And the environment that it is in is actually the air quality in that particular space. So that's the relationship between the two.
And I think the simplest advice that we can give, correct me if I'm wrong here, is get fresh air in as much as possible, flush through, keep your CO2 low, then your biological pollutants that might have entered, maybe through people, they'll get flushed out.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's basically reducing risk.
Yeah, you're reducing risk. And in terms of the air quality monitoring, you can see that at the CO2 level. If your CO2 level that you're monitoring is close to 450 or 500 or 600 parts per million, that means you have fairly fresh air in your building, or you have plenty of oxygen. Let's put it like that. Whether it's really fresh depends as well on the reading of PM 2.5. Here in San Pablo City, where I live, we sometimes have elevated PM 2.5. Why? Because somebody might be doing open burning in the neighborhood. We all know it's illegal, but it keeps happening because it's very difficult to enforce. So that's usually the PM 2.5 open burning. I have already reached out to one neighbor who does it regularly, and he told me, hey, walang problema, I'm just burning some leaves. And I told him, hey, have a look here at my screen. Can you see the red there? It's an alert. It's toxic levels. It's not healthy. And your leaves, why don't you turn them into organic fertilizer? That would be good for your garden, right? We need to give people a better alternative, a motivating alternative, rather than just coming up with a whacking finger. So I think that's very important. We have maybe time for one final question. Our show is 40 minutes long. We have nearly used that up. If there is one more burning question from you guys, please ask it. Otherwise, in the meantime, Dustin, where can people find out more about the uHoo device, the air quality parameters that you're actually monitoring, and the index, the virus index? Is that a document that is publicly available?
Yeah, you can gather more information about uHoo on our website. Our website is getuhoo.com. So that's GETUHOO.com. And you would be able to see where what the parameters that we measure are, an explanation of why each parameter is important. It also explains how the virus index is calculated and how you can use it to reduce your virus risk, both at home and in the workplace. And for businesses, we also have a business page for our business solution.
Excellent, great. So I'm a happy user since 3 years, actually 3.5 years, because I just bought it after my baby daughter was born. She's 3.5 already now. So it's been lasting without any problems. And I greatly recommend everybody to start monitoring their indoor air quality and then improve it and manage it in such a way that you optimize the health for you and for your family, and then make the link to outdoor air quality. What can we learn from that? How can we help to improve the outdoor air quality in the Philippines? We learned during the lockdown that suddenly we improved it a lot. We had clear views. People could breathe healthier, could feel healthier. We have this risk of Filipinos having a lower life expectancy than the rest of ASEAN. We need to all work together on this. It's part of sustainability, people's life expectancy, health, and as well healthy business, healthy living. So it's all in line with sustainable PH philosophy. And I think all Filipinos can be proud that one of their fellow Filipinos has come up with this most comprehensive device, which is a market-leading tool. And why not more Filipinos can benefit from using it? And I think we had a very informative show. Thanks, Dustin, for coming on the show and answering all of our questions.
Thanks
and
for having me.
Thanks to our audience for being online today and contributing a lot with good comments and good questions. Shout out to all of you, and see you again in 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks' time, I have invited the Miss Earth Global 2017 winner, Karen Basco, to be on the show with me. So we'll have a little bit of glamour on the show there. Not that we didn't have any glamour today with Dustin, but we might have a little bit more glamour in 2 weeks' time. But we had great information, excellent insight, and an inspiring example of a fellow Filipino businessman that is well known all over the world because of the invention that he has come up with and the tool that helps people and the planet. So yes, the final comment that's on the screen there, Dustin is a believer that everyone needs to have technology that empowers people to create healthier living and working environments. I think that's a great line to finish off with. Thanks so much, everyone, for being on the show today. See you again in 2 weeks' time. Thanks a lot, Dustin, for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Matthias. Thanks, everyone.